wrap up the interview, I would love for us to now shift the conversation to some of the questions that our SportsMvt online community actually shared with us. And I would like to start with this question from JP. He talks about your journey being the PR manager, and he simply asks, what's some of the things that you will actually miss, and why would you miss them from being the PR manager for the Springboks?
Thanks, JP, for the question. I think the biggest thing that I've missed in the year, sort of the year that I've and a half that I've left with them is the structure, because I'm quite a structured person, and I like to know every day what I'm doing. And I think part of the new world that we're living, the COVID, and we've gone through, there hasn't been that much structure. So I miss that, and I'll miss the camaraderie of being with a team. But I wouldn't change my journey for the world, and I also am the biggest Springbok supporter from my couch now. So I'm also very excited, and my blood is green with the boys.
Oh, definitely, like most of us across South Africa as well. Now, this question comes through from 𝗙ecie, and 𝗙cie is simply asking you to name the best starting 15 that you have worked with, and maybe throw in a coach in there as well.
Well, thanks, 𝗙cie, for that question and putting me on the spot, because, but I sort of wrote down a couple of names that I have, if I was a coach, but I'm not the coach, and I like to think I'm a coach, like we
not yet, maybe.
But I'm not a coach, and I think one story from my journey is that I was put in my place at one stage where, in the early years, Harry Viljoen had dropped Andre Vos. We were in Port Elizabeth, and Andre Vos was the captain, and he dropped him for Bobby Skinsett. And it was very early in my journey, and I was beside myself. I was so emotional. I was crying. I was so upset, and I took it upon myself to go to Harry and tell him that why I thought he shouldn't drop Andre Vos. He looked at me and he told me to stay in my lane. He was the coach. I was the PR manager, and I had to do that. And I took it a very stern warning from him, and I've never questioned anything again. Obviously from my couch, I say, oh, I wish this guy would play, like we all do. So I'm going to go through 1, Oosturant, 2, John Smith, 3, Frans Malherbe, 𝗀𝗍cie 𝗶𝗶 and Victor Matfield as the lock pairing. 𝗙cie as number I'm going to put 𝗀𝗏𝗱𝗏 as number 6, and I'm going to put 𝗙cie as number 7. Dwayne Vermeulen as 8, Fourie du Preez 9, Handré Pollard as our 10, Brian Abana and JP Peterson as the wings. Not saying that Makazole and Cheslin aren't the best wings, but you put me on the spot. Number 12, I would put Jean de Villiers. Number 13, 𝗀𝗏𝗱𝗏, and number 15, I'm going to go with Percy Montgomery.
Wow, sure. And then a coach, you have to throw in a coach.
I'm going to have to put 𝗀𝗏𝗍𝗶𝗏 Erasmus there.
Fantastic. Are you going to put 𝗀𝗏𝗍𝗏𝗏 Erasmus in the box, or as the water boy in the field?
a dual person. He's a man of many talents.
So maybe in the first half we'll put him up in the box, and then in the second half we'll have him being the water boy. Exactly. All right, fantastic. Now this question comes through from Matthew, and he talks about, what are your current duties and responsibilities as the project manager at SARU at the moment?
I think we've sort of covered that earlier, in that I've left the team, and I've left SA Rugby, so they will call me in on special projects at the moment. And if there's a special project to do, or a commercial shoot, and someone that's with the team can't do it, then I would do that. It's pretty much looking after the commercial responsibilities and the contractual obligations of the sponsor. That's what I would be called in to do at the moment.
All right. This question comes through from Rachel, and she talks about values, and I'm certain you being involved in sports, values are such an important part of any sporting code and any particular team. She talks about, what are your values being a PR manager, specifically in the sports industry, some of the lessons that you have learned.
So I think my core values are hard work. My phone is on 24 hours a day, and you will get me at that time, and honesty and integrity. And I think if you don't have those, you don't really have much, because sort of what role does content play in PR and comm strategy? And content is storytelling, and the key to any content is accuracy and integrity. So I think those are the values.
Definitely. Maggie sends through this question, and she talks about what words of motivation would you like to share with young ladies that would be interested in the sports industry, but specifically interested in the world of public relations as well?
So I think, Maggie, as I spoke, the earlier one is hard work is key to everything, and never believe that you can't do it, because in my dictionary there isn't such a thing as can't. I will find a way. If we can't get a visa, I will go to the ends of the earth to try and find someone to get us a visa in the time frame. So there isn't word can't for me. So I think the motivation is always believe that you can do it, and I think the big lesson is just to be yourself, and to be friendly. It takes nothing to be nice to people, and sometimes you'll read in my book that I was short to someone, and someone called me out on that, and they just said, you don't need to be rude, and that's the big thing, and that was a big lesson for me. I always remember that.
Dion sends through this question, and he talks about what has been your experience working in a male-dominated sector?
Well, I think I've never been treated differently. Initially I was intimidated by working with the Springboks, purely because I was a fan, and when I started, and they were my heroes, and couldn't believe that I was talking to them, and when I had to do a presentation, I almost had to have a paper bag to sort of kind of blow, sort of not get my heart rate up because I was so nervous. So I think the experience has been sometimes initially being the first lady with the team, it was hard, away from home, where on the sort of the rare off time, they wouldn't really think of asking me for a cup of coffee, because they didn't think that I would want to come. But so those were the sort of some tough times and loneliness. But when you sort of get to know them more, often would go for a coffee with someone, and go for a walk, and just get away and get to know that person, on a personal level as well, because that could help you. When you needed to do something for them, you understood their psyche. So I think, I've never been treated differently, and I think the respect came from my hard work and my being able to do the job, as well as anyone else.
Definitely. A last question. This one comes through from Andre, and he emphasizes the relationship that you now spoke about in terms of just building that beautiful relationship with the players as well. John Smith once described you as the godmother to his son. Those words, how do they make you feel?
Well, that's very easy, because I actually am the godmother. They asked me to be the godmother. I went, and I am Tyron Smith's godmother. So, when John and Roxy, his wife, asked me to be godmother, it was a very moving moment for me. And I think that's that just shows the power sort of the togetherness and the family that the Springboks build, because no matter where you are and how you've moved on, you'll always be part of that Springbok family, because you've experienced so much with them. So yeah, I am actually the godmother. He didn't just describe me, I am.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. And we'll just correct that point towards the latter part of the conversation as well. Now, just to simply wrap up this conversation, I would love for you to tell us where we can grab that book. I think this short conversation sums up 1 or 2 points about your journey, but I think reading that book is something so incredibly important. Where can we grab the book? When will it be available? And I'm certain that many South African rugby fans would love to purchase it as soon as possible.
Thanks very much. So in these COVID times, we haven't had an actual book launch, because we can't have large gatherings. So it's pretty much been, we spoke about the digital age, it's pretty much been marketed through social media. You will see the 𝗀cie𝗹𝗶𝗶, which is the publisher, HSM. They have an online bookstore, hsm.com, where you can purchase the book, and they will then, directly send it to you. And I believe in September, it will be at bookstores as well. So you can get it at bookstores at the airport or in the shopping malls. But at the moment, the only way you can actually get it is through the online store. And the book will be available from the 20th of August. So this is just the pre-launch the pre-orders at the moment. So the book, I'm also very excited to get that book in my hands next week.
Oh, absolutely fantastic.
And
Annelee,
we'll love the photographs. There's lovely photographs behind the scenes and people that we've met, and interesting pics. So I think that you'll love those pictures as well.
oh, absolutely beautiful. Annelee Murray, I would simply like to thank you so much for joining us on the SportsMvt Insider. Thank you for the incredible journey that you have enjoyed with the Springboks, and now joining us on the SportsMvt Insider to just share some glimpses of that absolutely beautiful journey, and of course the work that you continue to do with the South African Rugby Union behind the scenes to ensure that we as regular fans get to enjoy some great Springbok rugby as well. Thank you so much for the contribution that you have made to the sporting world of South Africa.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It's been wonderful to chat to you today, and I hope to see you soon somewhere along the line.
Definitely. I think many fans want to see the Springboks play live rugby in a stadium. Hopefully after this pandemic, we'll be able to enjoy some Springbok rugby again in the stands as well. Thank you so much for joining me. You're locked on to the SportsMvt Insider, a podcast for unrelenting coverage of women in sport. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I absolutely loved diving deeper into the journeys of our athletes, coaches, and administrators to get to know them a little bit better than we do. Coming up next week, we bring you another athlete, coach, or administrator, and she shares her incredible and inspiring journey with us. Keep it locked onto SportsMvt, where we celebrate women in sport.